Um, anyway, this is like, well, I told you so, or whatever. I've talked about old Caster Semenya and his and Wambui and Nian Saba's little stunt in 2016 in the Rio Olympic 800 meter women's race, so-called, and how they stole all the medals from the women who were actually the ones who should have had the medals. We all know that those 3 medalists were all men. It's all come out, DSD or not, doesn't excuse it. They were frauds. And the women were very upset about it. And I have no doubt, I don't think it says this in this article, but I have no doubt that the women who were robbed of those medals, that they went privately to the IOC or to the boards of the various, or committees of the various events, and pleaded with them to change the testosterone levels. Because thereafter, Semenya, that was kind of the end of his career. And then old Nian Saba tried and failed to win a medal in the 5,000 meter last time out. I think he came in 5th or something. I have it on, an old video profiling all the cheaters that we've had in the Olympic Games. Men impersonating women, whether they were so-called transgender, the cross-dressers, or whether they're the so-called DSDs. But this coach also alluded to the fact that coaches of various countries were actively recruiting men, these men with DSDs, to get an edge. It isn't women with DSDs, these are men with DSDs, XY. And so, thanks to the Olympic Committee and stuff, they watered down the requirements so much you could drive a semi-truck through them. There was such a gaping hole. So there was all this cheating. And it was very rare before that time, before they put in all these new rules. There was some form of chromosome testing, and the occasional male that did cheat and meddled, the rare one, and I'm thinking of one in particular named Stella Walsh. Well, there was the attempt by the second place finisher to strip Walsh of his medal because he was found to be male, DSD or not, after he was tragically murdered in 1980. But the IOC said no, so that woman was without the medal that she had earned. And there is a push here by some to tell or persuade the IOC that they need to take the medals away from those 3 people and give them to the top 3 women finishers, female finishers. But fat chance that's ever going to happen. And the mainstream media in the U.S. have kept really quiet about this. They never really said anything much about this. Even though the female athletes were upset about it when it happened, even though other media in other countries, and I think of the Times UK, that outed Semenya as a man. And so it's been known for years. And it was known for years even before he was formally outed in the court cases and stuff, that he was a cheat. But anyhow, when I post this on the YouTube, I'm just going to put the name of the article because they will flag my damn video. Anything with Reduxx on it. I guess because of the X's in it. I don't know if they think that's X-rated or something. I have no idea. But I had it flagged twice, and I don't want to have it flagged. But I'll just put the title on here. Because this is exclusive to Reduxx. But it says Athletics Canada, and this is a man, former head coach, has come forward to reveal that he was threatened by the Canadian Olympic Committee lawyers after expressing discontent with the results of the women's 800 meter at the 2016 Olympic Games. One of the greatest sports scandals of modern times and completely underreported, in my view. The competition saw 3 biological males, men, take the top spots, displacing the female Canadian bid to 4th place. Peter Erickson, the record-making former head coach for the Canadian Olympic and Paralympic program, spoke to Reduxx about what happened at the 2016 session in Rio and the consequences as he faced if he spoke out on behalf of Canadian athlete Melissa Bishop. Bishop placed 4th after 3 males competed in the female division. In the 800-meter women's race, Caster Semenya of South Africa took home gold, with Francine Niyonsaba of Burundi placing silver and Margaret Wambui of Kenya finishing with bronze. All 3 of the athletes have DSD, while they are recognized as female legally, female in quotes, of course. Well, they're not female. They possess XY chromosomes and are biologically male. In other words, they're cheaters. Okay, they're men. Doesn't matter what the legal fiction is. Semenya, in particular, has been the subject of much controversy dating back to 2009, when he first began participating in elite women's sports. Semenya's rapid improvements in performance initially triggered suspicions of drug use, and World Athletics, then called IAAF, was internationally denounced for requesting Semenya take a test to ascertain his biological sex. And then it talks about how much higher testosterone that he had. And then he tried to take it, some medication to lower it, and it didn't, and he found he underperformed. So what he's got, according to this, he has a genetic disorder where the normal male sexual development fails in utero, resulting in external genitals that appear to be, that's not a vagina. Please, writers, that's a vulva. A vagina is internal. A vulva is external. In other words, he had a tiny dick. Okay, that's what he had. Anyway, and I had read somewhere where he complained he had to urinate sitting down or something. But anyway, it doesn't matter. Speaking to Reduxx, this coach said he was outraged at the results of the 2016 Olympics 800 meter and had wanted to speak out against the injustice on behalf of Melissa Bishop, the Canadian female runner who would come in 1st place if not for the 3 male cheaters. And anyway, so he talks about it and how he was, and everybody knew Caster Semenya, for example, was a male. Everybody was aware of it, but I think that the World Athletics didn't want to do anything, Erickson says. This is now documented in court records. He has a very high testosterone and is XY. That's a dude. A few years earlier, he tried to lower his testosterone and began to perform poorly, so he stopped. Yeah, he didn't want to change it because, you know, he'd have to actually, well, he can't compete fairly. So Erickson's contract was canceled just months after the Rio Olympics, despite him having led Team Canada to the highest medal count in track and field since 1932. And you know why they did it. Blackballed. And he says that Bishop's loss had an impact on her emotionally and financially. Yeah, she was robbed of it. Of course. Anyway, but he also said they were active, or it was mentioned here that coaches, national coaches, were going around trying to actively recruit these men. And wish I could find that. But it's a scandal. And that's why they were, quote unquote, these DSD types were overrepresented. In these events, they were actively recruiting, but it mentions it in here somewhere, and I'm not going to look it up because of time constraints. But yes, they would like to push for the medals to be returned to the rightful winners, but that's not going to happen. If they didn't do it for that fraud Stella Walsh, they're not going to do it in this case. They can't. You know, they just can't tolerate the criticism. But it's all got to stop. And the way to do it is just to do chromosome testing. And if you have an XY, unless you gave birth to a boy, and I guess there's sometimes some cells, Y cells stay in the women's body. But obviously if you've had a baby, you're a female. But if you're born XY, you cannot ever compete in any women's events. And if you have that Y and you're DSD and you can't make it, don't go crying about it. Just go find another line of work. It's not that hard. But don't rob women of their rightful medals and records and endorsements and everything else. Their livelihoods. Anyway, I'll post. I'm not going to post the link, but I'll post the title of the article. But that's it for today.